on that first, on how we are going to get ID, and also that we know how to proceed on the next strategy. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, host. May I just have a contribution on what she has just raised?
That's Wakili.
Yes, Ndegwa.
Kindly go on.
On that issue of the ID, I've been very persistent and consistent that we need to have the machines that produce IDs devolved to our counties to make sure that we expedite the process of the production of IDs and make it accessible to every person who has not acquired the ID. Remember, the ID is one of the biggest arsenals that we have. When all the guns are silent, when all the water cannons are silent, when all the tear gas is silent, we'll be left with an ID at a place called the polling station. Despite the fact that we are 28 million strong, we may lose the war if we are not duly registered. Why? Because it's only those people who are registered who will be able to participate in this revolution. Because the revolution will persist until the day we get the tyrant, until we get the day we get the despot out of that house. Number two, on the criteria of coming up with leaders. Any leader who qualifies or who meets the criteria under Chapter 6 of the Constitution, that is a man or woman whom we are looking for. A person, a lamp without blemish, a person beyond reproach, a person who fits the description of the sister's wife. And I believe there are many of us of that criteria and who can fit that bill. On the question of the IBC, is a very crucial situation. And I want to remind members and the listeners here that the most important aspect is the criteria for selecting the panel that will eventually interview the commissioners. I mentioned previously that we'll have 9 panelists. One of them will come from Azimio Coalition. One of them will come from the KK Coalition. 3 of them will be elected by the Political Party Liaison Committee. Political Party Liaison Committee is a committee that has been constituted by all the registered political parties. The other one will come from, I think the church will have 2, and then the civil service will also have 1. So in total, there will be 9. These panelists are the ones that we must make sure that they are people, they are men, women of integrity. People who cannot be compromised. So as we proceed, because the Gen Zs have not been participating in the matters of political party, we may not have an opportunity of selecting, but we may have the opportunity of putting these individuals to a test and to a scale and say that if you do not have this criteria, if you do not meet this criteria, you are not qualified to sit in that particular panel. If the panel is constituted of bad people, people who cannot be trusted, people who cannot be held to account, remember the principle garbage in, garbage out, we'll still find ourselves with an incompetent IBC. Finally, we must have individuals who speak our language in that particular committee panel, so that at the end of the day, our revolution will have representatives in that particular panel. And then those are the issues I wanted to raise. I find them quite fundamental. Number 3, and the last one is that we must keep the fire burning. The revolution must not die. Today we have successfully, as LSK, been able to stay the directives that were issued by these acting IG. We have stayed them, they are no longer effective. So we need now to start going to the next level of our revolution. And the next level of our revolution, perhaps we need to start now redefining ourselves, where we are having perhaps things like projects like sit-ins. If you're not having sit-ins, we should have something like the, the debates in town halls, meetings, so that we keep on synthesizing our people. And then the other thing is that we must insist that the revolution is a non-violence revolution, is a non-violence approach. And we must call out those individuals who are bringing up the violence. Today, the IG confirmed through his presser that he knows the goons, that he has met with the goons, and that the goons are there to disrupt us. You ask yourself, which competent police officer or police force will identify of the incompetence that is this country suffering? I beg to rest my case. Kindly consider on that issue of the ID, consider on that issue of the IBC selection panel, and the idea of pushing an non-violent movement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wakili, and it's good to have you. And we actually celebrate on your inputs, you guys. You really stood with us, and we appreciate you
Thank
in
you.
a big way. Uh,
We are behind you. We will not leave this revolution until we win.
Amen to that, guys. You heard it, yeah. Let's. There's also another lawyer in the house. He's always with us. Kindly say hi to Steve Mbogwa. Kindly say hi to the meeting, and then we can continue.
I want to salute you all and the patriots and those who even turned up today to invade. Some activism sometimes is not necessarily being out there and actively protesting. Sometimes even sharing knowledge and enlightening our parents, our colleagues on the need to respect the rule of law is one of the aspects of being active citizens, because this is our nation and this is our country that we must shape the future how it needs to look like. I want to first start by thanking the High Court. Today was very grateful. They at least they upheld the rule of law by suspending those bans which we saw the the acting IG, trying to put across to ban protests. Because what I would like the public to know, if such an act is allowed where an inspector of police can wake up in the morning and declare that they have suspended particular sections of the law, which or particular rights which are enshrined in our constitution, it clearly means that these rights are given to you by the government, and therefore the government has a right to take them away as they wish or when they feel they are not able to. The government need to know that the Bill of Rights, it is an inherent rights that we were born with. They are there for us, and they cannot be taken away. They are only written in the constitution as a matter of just entrenchment, but not giving to us. We already have them, because the mere fact that we are human beings and we are citizens of this country, we already have these rights. So, and the other thing I would like to also further mention, and which has been moving around, is the aspect of use of violence in this protest. When the Inspector General of Police came out strongly to say that they understand, I think that is what my senior colleague, Mr. Njiru, was mentioning. He's able to mention that they are able to identify these goons, and they can know they have intel that they are going to cause mayhem and destroy property. And then as a result, they want to instill fear to the public not to protest, and also issue demands to threaten the public, the peaceful protesters, not to protest. Then they are failing on their job, because it is the job of the police as the duty bearers to provide security to those who intend to peacefully protest, and those who intend not to protest, they protect their businesses. So the moment they start mentioning that they have no ability or capacity to take care of your property because people are going to protest and goons are going to take advantage, then it baffles each and every one of us, because we have seen them being deployed to even out of the country to Haiti. And if they knew that we don't have capacity to deal with the thugs who are harassing Kenyans, they should not do that, yet, despite a court order stopping them from doing that. So we have suffered as a country for a very long time when it comes to respect of the rule of law. And I hope and pray that the Inspector General respects the court's directive. And if not, what we have vowed as advocates and lawyers in general is that we are now going to, and the Law Society of Kenya, we are now going to file matters against these people individually, because they like hiding under the bracket of, I am the Inspector General. And every single time you attack, you're attacking the office of Inspector General. But that office has a bearer who is violating these rights and ensuring that they don't even comply with the court order. So we are going to go after them individually for violations of these rights and these orders which they have failed to comply with. Because the moment you lift that veil, everybody needs to know that respect human rights and fundamental freedoms that we are enshrined in our constitution. The good thing I like the conversations and the discussion that have been moving around the country and even through these spaces and also in various platforms on how the need for good governance, and what has even makes me even more happy as a young person and also as a lawyer is the fact that the clamor that we have seen across the country this time round is not about mtu wetu, mtu wetu atapata nini, mtu wetu atakuwa kwa serikali. It is about we want a better Kenya for each and every one of us. We want a Kenya where if I get my child in Bungoma, if I have a child in Nyeri, if I have a child in Turkana, they all have equal chances to go to school, equal chances to access health, equal chances for the police to treat them right, not where your son, you have sent them to the shop and you don't know whether they're going to come back home because someone illegally abducted them and you don't even know how to trace them. They cannot even accord them right to call their parents or call their lawyers. And this aspect of anarchy, which the government machineries have been using to peddle for the last, I think, 4 days, and trying to scare people that if this happen, if you remove, if you say Ruto must go, what next? I think those are naive approach to issues and failure to appreciate the real issue that Kenyans are facing. The constitution, even if Ruto was to die today because of a condition or a death, a natural death, the constitution under Article 146 has provided mechanisms of how governments are managed and how they're supposed to be handed over to the next person. So they should stop peddling this approach that if Kenyans agitate for their rights and a demand for accountable government and demand for stopping police brutality, that is tantamount to anarchy. Anarchy is when a court gives an order in Malindi and says police not to use water cannons and tear gas, and then police officers proceed to use them the following day on citizens. Anarchy is when police use live bullets to shoot innocent peaceful protesters with the claim that they are quelling a protest and intimidating Kenyans from agitating for their rights. So if there is any form of lawlessness, it is the government orchestrating it and sending even goons when the government doesn't provide security to business people who have shops in the city or towns and protect their businesses. That is the aspect of anarchy. But anarchy is not when citizens exercises their right under the constitution to demand for an accountable government, to demand for people who are misusing public funds to be held accountable, to demand for a government that is geared towards respect to human rights and fundamental freedoms. Those are not reasons to declare citizens as perpetrators of anarchy. And it is so worrying when the political class has been so much ganging up to try and fight even journalists who are supposed to be really, providing this information to us and sharing information to the whole world to know what is happening in this country. Then they're using excessive force even to journalists. Apart from citizens, they're even going to journalists. They are now, I saw that they have also orchestrated some approach across the social media, attacking some media houses. These are just propagandas and fear. And I think Napoleon has one time mentioned that government have for a long time thrive in fear and propaganda. That's how most of government entities have thrived, that they sell fear to you, they sell propaganda, and they manage things. They told us that someone has confessed they have killed 42 people. The next day, we are seeing the same person in court through their lawyers, indicating that the said confession was obtained by way of use of force and violence on them. So we need to be honest as a country, and we need to continue being vigilant and to be active, not just on this issue, but to be active in all aspects of governance. We are headed to the process of selecting commission, and the people are going to be nominated in the election panel from various institutions. Even the LSK is going to send one of our representatives to sit in that particular committee, and various institutions are going to do the same thing. And I want to echo the words of my senior colleague, Mr. Ndegwa, that these persons, we need to have people who have the best interest of the country at heart. We have to have people who are going to get us the best commissioners who are going to run this election in a best way possible, because it is our business as citizens and active members of this country to be able to manage our affairs in a manner that is going to protect not only our present, but even our future. Because those who are in government right now, if you look at how they came into government, most of them joined when they were young. Probably they never had the best interest of our parents that time. They never bothered about the interest of our seniors who were living at that time, and they have only orchestrated selfish political agendas to try and misuse public funds. And you look at what even Nani Maura, the spokesperson of the government, yesterday was giving a statement, yesterday or today, saying that the government has lost 6 billion for the last 1 month because of protest. I remember we have been told before that government loses 2 billion every day on corruption every day. So I think if the protest only costed 6 billion for 1 month, that if comparing to how much money we have been losing through the aspect of corruption, that is comparing day and night. And I think the government need to get serious when it comes to issues of governance, and we need to stop na sisi kama wa Kenya, because sisi kama young people especially, I want to say that we have a duty to educate our parents. When our parents wake up in the morning and they see that a child in Kajiado was shot because of protesting against government excesses, some of them get scared and they remind you not to protest, not to raise this issue, keep quiet, stop being vigilant. But we can't just keep quiet like they did, and we don't raise questions, we don't go to court, we don't hold them accountable, and we allow this issue to continue and we hand over them to the next regime and our children come and take over. We have to ensure and to remember that the price of revolution is eternal vigilance. If we don't remain vigilant in everything that we are doing, in every sectors, in every corporations that we're supposed to be providing services to us, even at the county government level, at the CDF level, the management of our public resources by the members of parliament and the NGCDF committees, if we don't hold these people at all these levels accountable, then we may not realize the kind of country we all desire to live. And that's why you find all of us, most of us, you look at other countries and developed democracies, and we want to run there because we are saying the education system is working. I want to run to Finland. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Asia. I want to go to America because I find their healthcare is working. I want to go there to India because their hospitals have better treatment care than our hospitals. People should not be running away from their country to go and seek services elsewhere. Yet every single year every single day, every single minute we are being taxed heavily as Kenyans and as citizens. So the conversation should go on. The conversation should not stop with just the protest. The conversation should be continue even in your local barazas, in those chiefs barazas, educating our people, talking to them about holding our leaders accountable, asking questions where we need to, participating in governance. If you have not applied for an ID, if you have just finished high school, you apply for one. If you have not applied for a registration a voter card, you apply for one, because all these issues, at the end of it all, even us as young people, we're not pushing for them, and even as lawyers, we're not pushing for them, and then we use illegal means to also manage their affairs. We want to participate and respect the rule of law in all ways. That if there are people we need to recall, you need to remember that even if you recall them, an election will be called to replace them. And that election needs people to turn up and vote. So if you have not registered yourself as a voter and don't turn up to vote, or don't educate the fellow colleagues and fellow people, Kenyans, on how to vote rightfully, we may not realize the best leaders. We may have the same people and recycle the same characters in government. So it is our business, it is a business of each and every one of us to remain vigilant, and the vigilance to demand for a better Kenya and an accountable one. And as the Law Society of Kenya and as advocates and members of this society and members of this country, we have to push forward, and we are going to push for the respect of the rule of law. And we are happy that each and every Kenyan is appreciating every single provision of the Constitution, because this Katiba, if you look at it after 2010, when it was being brought on board in 2010, August, the whole world was very happy with us. Everybody was happy. South Africans we were being compared with even to be better than even South Africa. People were claiming that Kenya is headed in the right direction. So everybody was seeing it. And that's why, if you can remember the promulgation of the Constitution, almost the whole world was here to witness this serious change that Kenya and East African state is taking this route. But 14 years down the line, now the life in the constitution is being taken away. Violations, people have been living in the old constitutional dispensation. It's time we breathe in the life to this constitution, so that everybody knows that it is our document and we give it to ourselves. And therefore, when it provides an Article 43 that each and every one of us has a right to socio-economic rights, a right to healthcare, a right to education, rights to all those development that we desire, political rights that we have, rights to participate in protests peacefully, rights to hold the government accountable, rights to hold our leaders accountable, then these rights must be respected, upheld, and when we hold these leaders accountable, we should not be intimidated and fear sold to us. France, we have witnessed what they are doing, and nobody is fighting them. We saw what happened in the UK. People have can raise concerns and raise issues against the government that they don't feel they're comfortable with. And leaders, I think for 2 years, UK dropped 3 prime ministers, and the government is still in place and running because people have been educated more. Civic education is becoming more, been raised to a high level. So it's our business as revolutionaries and people who demand for a better Kenya to educate each and every one of us and those who don't have the benefit of joining these spaces, to let them understand what are we demanding for, what are the issues that we are holding our leaders accountable for, so that it doesn't just become a brand of hiyo ni maandamano ya kawaida. People now realize that these are issues and appreciate them, because we have done a lot, and Kenyans have achieved so much in the last 1 month that most of our forefathers who died many years, if they were to wake up today, they'll even be shocked. So let's keep the vigilance and we move forward. In case of any legal issues, we have always requested members of the public to feel free to reach out to the lawyer who is closest to you, or you can always call the LSK for assistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very broad, and you covered almost all areas. We appreciate your presence, you and Wakili Ndegwa. We appreciate you for your input and your contribution in both in the courts, both in the walls, in our platforms, in our town halls. We really appreciate you, Wakili. Thank you so much. And
Thank you very much. And I can also recognize, I see presence of some of my council members. Wavinya is also present.
Thank you.
if they're on the speaker panel, we could have actually let them in. I can't see some of them, but I only saw the two of you, and I had to drop some people to add you back.
Oh, thank you for that honor and privilege. Today I tweeted and I said, because government is trying to perpetuate a Twitter handle that Ruto listens. So today I tweeted and said, yes, if Ruto listens, let him listen to the Kenyans and resign. I think we need to promote that and tweet it in that aspect, so that then we are saying, okay, if you are really listening, then resign. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you put it on the comment section so that the people that are on the space can retweet it right away?
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll carry on. I'll still give you, if you still have something, I'll let you stay on the speaker panel for a while as we carry on with the discussion of today. Afric, kindly take the mic. We're on 3 minutes, and then Fred Polo, you'll carry on. And everyone that is coming to discuss property, you cannot replace our lives. Life one lost is one too many. So I'm sorry if I'm co-hosting, I will not discuss property. I will not discuss businesses. I will discuss lives. So if you can have discussion on life, and I'm not being biased, it's just me. So kindly, Africa, come on, and then Fred Polo and Solo.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, kindly go ahead.
I'm gonna approach what currently we are facing as a country in a different perspective, just to shed more light on a global stage per se. So I'm a big fan of economical takeover of countries. Ukiangalia from Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, like all countries, when the West are actually planning to come in and take over, there's a very popular strategy. Like if you remember, guys, last year, most of our resources and state corporations were up for sale. And if you look in the entire Africa as you speak right now, I think Kenya is poised to be the number one most successful country coming the next 10, 15 years. Like right now, yes, we are through this, but it's going to be a very prosperous country. But prosperous means so many things. Like even if you go to the West right now, they are very well developed, Siptalis inafanya, but even if you look at a survey done in the States as recent as this year, 60% of the population don't have an emergency fund of $500 to $1,000. So mtu akishika na emergency ya 50k to 150k ni shida kubwa sana, even if it's a very developed country. They rely 100% on debt and other structures. But what I want to quickly point out with the few minutes I have, let's say 2 or so, is there's something called economic destabilization or a financial warfare, which is happening in our country. So what happens is they always say, don't let a good opportunity go to waste. And they normally use their own population, kama sisi wenyewe, to self-destruct, to devalue all our companies. If you go to the Nairobi Stock Exchange and check on the big companies that are actually very active, from agriculture to residential construction, they're at the record low. From when Ruto came into power, NSE was trading at about 15, now it was 6.5. All companies now are trading at the record low values. Okay? And these riots we are doing, it's only helping to shrink the middle class. All companies zile ambazo ziko on loan, tao, biashara, wamekopa pesa, the people who have these buildings with the tenants, at some point watashindwa kulipa. All these things are going to go back to the banks. Ukiangalia the top 10 companies saizi kwa stock exchange, they're all banks and insurances. They're making bucks. But the tactics they use is they orchestrate riots and protests. Unaona? Then they start inciting through different civil societies. Yes, you're fighting a good cause, but now they use their different wings to put more fire on it. Then there's going to be economic sabotage, where they encourage engaging in activities that disrupt the economy. Kama hizi strikes unafanya boycotts, attack on critical infrastructures. 2. 3 ni currency manipulation. So far our currency has been stable. We haven't seen an attack on our currency yet. Maintain hivyo kumaanisha there's no major outflight of dollars, like it's balanced out. So kumaanisha whoever is doing this, they are watching. No major money is leaving the country. Then next kuna market manipulation, which will come. So utaona there are some commodities which are being traded. Ukiangalia, you'll see which commodities are actually being manipulated. And then there's going to be international pressure, which again, the international pressure is going to, after everything has been done, after all the evaluations of the deals for these acquisitions mefanyika, there's going to be international pressure. All our needs are going to be met. And even if Ruto ataambiwa step down, is going to step down. But the cost is we'll have lost most of our critical. There's something happening behind the scenes as all these things are going on. So as much as we're trying to do this, we'd rather open our eyes and see what's actually happening behind the scenes, so that once all this is done, we go back and try to see if you're protecting our state assets, our state parastatals, and our resources. So that this is the biggest takeover happening. So whenever they come, they'll have owned each and every machinery within the country. It's easier for their control. No one is going to come to Kenya and invest in Kenya if they don't control and own almost everything. And they want it for cheap. Whatever you're doing is enabling them, and they like it. They're just watching. So we need to do it smart, in such a way that we do not harm our critical infrastructures. All right? Kama ni rails, the only person who we are hurting, yes, we are shutting down the economy. But remember, the cycle goes from the mamamboga to the guy who has a stall to the owner of the building, and all this money goes back to the top. So the only way we can actually make them listen is try see how we can affect the key trade aspects from the ports and stuff like that. Then from there they cannot do business, instead of hurting our mamambogas and the likes. And it's a cycle. It's going to take time, but the faster we can do this, the better, because our credit rating is down, our risk level is now high, so money coming into the country is going to be difficult. At the end of the day, if we don't get these companies to come back to our country, I think even the jobs you are crying for will not be there. Because if you look at the stock exchange, all these companies have lost 70, 60, 50% of their value since this new government took place. And the only thing they can do is either leave the country, fire people, reduce salaries, or no hiring. And that's what is happening. Because if you're not careful, all these companies will shut down and there'll be no one to employ anyone. So mine is just a caution to understand the art of political takeover and economical warfare, how it's done, and then we try to see how we can make our voices heard without hurting our country, because that's what's really happening. And I hit my mic. Those are my points.
Thank you very much, Afrik. Afrik, I will have to add you back on the mic. There's something I want to ask you. So let me spread the mic for a
No
while.
problem.
You'll go to Solo, then Fred follow.
All right, thank you very much for the
2 minutes each.
thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm just calling to kind of voice my concern about as a leader who's somebody who says that we need a leader and they propose Sonko, and I think those are the direction we don't want to go. The problem we have right now is because of having leaders who are compromised, who have checkered past and can be manipulated, so they will do and do anything whatever they're being told. So we don't want to go back that direction. That aside, so I think as Gen Zs we're losing the direction, and what I mean by that is this: we need a strategy, and the strategy is what we've been lacking. Yes, we should protest. It is the most impactful way, but as we protest, deals are being done on the back channel. Like right now, look at what this old man is doing with Ruto. There, he's sanitizing him, but that is what he's been doing all his years. The people that were killed during his protest are forgotten. He's happy so long as he's eating. So we must have a strategy, and I would post this to the lawyers. Number one, we've had JKIAs being sold as we sit. What can we do as GenZs? Could we put pressure? Could we call the PS for transport on space? Can he come and explain? And through pressure, we should focus on something like that and ask the tough questions. And the more we ask, the more we request, the more we tweet, get his number, call him until he comes to space and explain to us, yes, JKIA is being sold or not. So we know from a horse mouth. And this should also go with the ID. We want IDs, yes. We're complaining here on X, but we need to direct our complaint to the PS on that office. Should we put pressure on him, call him, do whatever we can until we get an answer from them? And with that, that will help us kind of narrow down, okay, we've talked on JKIA with somebody who is responsible. So if something happens, we know we have a record for it. And another thing that we as Gen Zs are forgetting is we've achieved something that no generation has achieved, and this will go in the history of books. There is only one person, like him or hate him, who can call a holiday. Now we have two. Number one is Raila Odinga. He can call a holiday anytime and the country will be shut. Number two, the Gen Zs can call a holiday anytime and the country will be shut. All these other generations, we can forget about them. So now we have that power. What can we do? Our lawyers, what can we do for us to be part of IEBC? They talked about we can put pressure on those being pointed and tweet and do all that, but is tweeting enough? Is there anything more that we can do when they choose somebody we can ask? Because we have so many honest, accountable and respected Kenyans who can do our thing. The only problem we have is when they get chosen with all these political parties, they are kind of beholden to those parties because they don't listen to us. But we want to be in a position where we can press them and ask them the tough question, like, when you go there as an IEBC, will you be biased? Will you be doing the will of the people? So those things we need to get them before they get there, because once they're in there, they're doing the bidding either of those people who chose them. Like we have those political parties, and we have I don't understand, the church left us. Why should we give them two slots? Those are questions that we should ask. The civil society, okay, what is civil society doing right now? Why are we giving them two slots? What about the citizens? Like we, the people, should have a voice on people being chosen. Do we have a platform in this group where a citizen can be, we as the people can choose our own? Okay, IEBC, all these parties are choosing their own. This slot, one slot is left for the ordinary wananchi, Gen Zs and youth and all that stuff. They're telling us youth of tomorrow. One thing we should remember as youth, today you are on your 20s. In 10 years' time, you will be on your 30s. You will still be complaining. So this revolution must start and must continue, and it has to achieve something. If it doesn't achieve something, trust me, 20 years down the line, you will be looking back, say, man, we were tear gassed for no reason at all. These our comrades lost their life for no reason at all. We can't relent, but at the same time, we must kind of focus on the direction in which we want this discussion to go by being laser point to a point where when we hear something, let's use these MPs like Babu Owino, Edwin Sifuna, Ledama Olekina. They are not clean, they are not the greatest, but they are what we have. Let's use them and they can tell us what is going on in parliament, because I know those people who wrote Ruto boat will never come out here and tell us what is going on in parliament. All they will tell us, yeah, I voted yes because I was told. So let's use these unclean guys who at least can listen to us to come to spaces and tell us what is going on in parliament, because we're not there. Before we know it, we will be hearing this law was passed and we have no idea. So please, let's be accommodative, but at the same time, let's get focused. That is my take. And thank you very much for the space. Let's keep it burning.
Thank you, Solo. Thank you very much for that. Fred, you can go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the platform. It's been a pleasure hearing Wakili Ndegwa and the rest of the LSK team on board. But just a quick one for Wakili Ndegwa. You guys are doing a good job, more so you. I just bumped into you when you were representing one of the legal times. I think that was a case for Waiguru. It was a pleasure seeing the way you do. But
Thank you.
question,
Thank you very much.
some of us would just like some mentorship from people who are senior like you, a coffee, lunch to discuss and motivate some of us to be the people you are. It would be very encouraging.
Thank you.
Number two, it has saddened me today that the government thinks if they form a government of national unity, everything will be sorted out. That sorts out only the political class, but leaves room for the issues which have been raised for the last few months still pending. I doubt if the government or the government of national unity will be able to implement issues which have been raised, more so in integrity issues, resource mobilization, and equal sharing of resources and all that. They are taking Kenyans for a ride, and currently the opposition thinks that they have somehow hijacked the Gen Z movement to benefit out of that. Number two, I'm hearing, or we have had several people saying we are leaderless, but allow me to bring something which might sound controversial. The leadership starts with you. Before you point at me, kindly look at yourself and try analyze if you can be the best we can at the moment as compared to what we already have. I will think if we think we have got no leadership, I will offer myself to all the membership around to go through my background, look at me at the eye at the person to see if Fred Polo can be the person who can implement the changes we need. Leadership starts with me, and if you can think one of us is better than you, who you are, I think it can be wrong to some extent. We are not brought up equally, but if we can take up and champion a task and deliver, you make a good leader. And I feel I will make a good leader. Not that anything else, but it's upon all of us to pick up issues which we can address where we can and sort them out. If you cannot sort them out, we can consult on who or how best those things can be sorted out. And again, initially we had that, or we have a discussion whereby we say we cannot have a recycled leadership, because some of these leaders we have had allegations on issues of integrity. So we are not lacking leadership in this country. So there's no reason for us to recycle leadership. I think those are the few points I had. And I would like to encourage everyone, wherever you are, please be positive and always stand up for the right thing. Thank you a lot, everyone, and have a good evening.
May I respond?
Sure,
Kindly
kindly.
go ahead. That's why I'm leaving you on the speaker panel. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much for the compliment and that kind regard and appreciation that the gentleman has had on me. Yeah, it is true that we've been very consistent in trying to call Mr. William Ruto to order. Some of us have refused to dine with the king, just like the way Daniel did. It came to a time when Daniel said, I will not sit and dine with the king. He was put in the den of lions, but again, God was with him and he was able to be delivered. That is where most of us are at this particular time. It calls a man or a woman, it takes a man or a woman of substance to take the stand that Daniel took, that I will not dine with the king. I'll not eat the king's food. I'll not defile my consciousness. I'll not defile my integrity. I'll not defile myself by associating with those people who have depleted the resources of this country. Fortunately, the majority of us, and especially on these spaces, hold a similar view that the time has come for us to change the way we do things in this country. And the good thing is that we are not beginning afresh. We have a basis upon where we should begin, and that is Article 10, which gives the Article 10 of the Constitution, which gives the values and the principles of governance. Previously, this country existed without values. But now there are some values that we have said these are values that are dear to us. One of the values is the value of the rule of law, the value of integrity, the value for respect of human rights, the value of inclusivity, the value of equity, the value of social justice, the value of democracy, the value of good governance, and the value of sustainable development. Those values were not there before. We now have those values to inculcate in our government. We have those values to inculcate in our institutions. We have those values to inculcate in us. And that constitution says those values bind every state organ, every state officer, and every person. So they bind all of us. So we have a basis upon which we can begin. We have a basis upon which we can say, yes, we are beginning as a clean slate, but this is a mirror. The mirror is Article 10 of the Constitution. Moving forward, on the question of JKIA, we have written to we had written to the minister in charge before he was removed, but we have now written to the head of civil service to under the right to access of information under Article 35 of the Constitution and Section 4 of the Access to Information Act, asking him to clarify that preposition so that in the at the fullness of time, when that preposition is not clarified, you have a basis upon which you can approach court to ask for that particular information. As it was said, that democracy is sustained by the eternal vigilance of individuals. We shall sustain this war and this revolution through our own eternal vigilance. And the eternal vigilance is keeping watch. For example, I am keeping watch and close watch on those persons who are going to be selected in the panel. If you get people of the caliber that we are fighting getting into the panel, you realize that we are destined for destruction. The IBC will not be able to deliver the credible, secure, and free and fair elections because garbage in, garbage out. Allow me to address the conduct of His Excellency Raila Odinga. I don't believe he represents us in any way, we the Gen Zs and the millenniums. Even if he goes for the dialogue, that is up to him. But he should not allow him to sabotage the movement. As and when he attempts to sabotage us, we must call him to order. For example, the time is right for us to call him to order, that he is not a Gen Z. He has tried to change this country. He has failed. Let him not interfere with the flow of things. And that is something that we need even to write to him. You know, today I was very happy that the IG is able to realize that the process is leaderless. The process is tribeless. The process is an non-violence process, and we are also fearless, and that's why we are we are soldiering on. I have heard the gentleman saying, yes, I am equal to the task. He is equal to the task, I agree is equal to the task, but as per now, let us remain as abstract as we can. Let him not be able to see where the head is. Let them not be able to tell where the tail is, so that we are able to move. A time will come when we shall identify the head. A time will come when we shall identify the tail. Why? Because at the fullness of time, government will be formed. A government that will be formed must be formed in accordance to the constitution. And there are no any other people who are better suited to form government other than the persons who are currently listening to me at this particular time. When that time comes, when that time presents itself, I will urge every person to present himself for purposes of making sure that we revert the manner in which things have been done in this country. And therefore, I'm saying, for me, I am ready, I am able, I am willing to soldier on. And what is giving me courage is that I'm soldiering on to fight incompetence in this country. I will soldier on to fight the extrajudicial killings in this country. I will soldier on to call for accountability in this country. I will soldier on to call for good governance in this country. I will soldier on to call for competent performance of the institutions that we have created in this country. I would wish my child to access good education like the child who is accessing that similar education in Brook House. I would wish to access and my child to access better health care like any other person who is accessing them. So I believe we are in the right course. We shall not relent. We are not going to drop the ball. They will kill us, but they will not kill the revolution. They will maim us, but they are not going to maim the revolution. They will brutalize us. They will blackmail us, but they will not blackmail the revolution. Why? Because change has come, change is here, and change shall live. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you very much, Wakili. Thank you very much. I still again appreciate your presence and the insights you're giving us. And as you've mentioned, when the bus starts leaving from this point to the next, those are dropping, those who